I
say that, but I don't see a giant live button.
I know, right? Let me double check because I don't understand why I can't see the stream anymore, but hang on. But I'm pretty sure we are live. I trust Melon at their word.
Let me check. Can I check Facebook? Or not Facebook? YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it does say we're live. It does say.
Oh, sweet. Perfect.
Do you see it up in the top? It's just really light.
I do.
There.
All right. Well, good. Well, everyone, welcome to Who's Closing. This is our first episode. Can you tell we're actually professionals? But welcome to Who's Closing, a working class podcast. I am your host, Boshti, and I am joined with the lovely Ren Like Some Moons. And we are here to talk about some serious things. It's not my favorite, but we are going to be...
No, I was, no, go on, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. So essentially, yes, we are going to be talking about consent, baby, and why Minnesota and David Dobrik might need some help defining it. We were going to cover Amazon's anti-union efforts, but I am going to actually move that to next week's episode 2. Sorry to bother you two, Electric Boogaloo. So we're going to just talk about some other shit we've been up to lately. How's that sound? Awesome. Hope so. It is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So if you do join our podcast, or I'm sorry, just kidding, if you do join our Patreon, any proceeds that we make for the month of April will be going to suicide prevention and to sexual assault awareness. So feel free to join at any tier that fits your budget. We've got a ticker running with a link to our Patreon page. We hope to see you there. So that was a killer intro. I feel really good about that.
You did great. Like, I think, honestly, you speak so professionally. You're just, like, really confident when you speak as well. And I think it's just been so long since I've done that. Like, I did speech in high school. And then since that, after living in Japan, I was just like, haha. And then I tend to, and you guys actually might find how I speak to you guys. It's just a bit... almost, I don't want to say, I try to not speak so, I try to keep things light in the way that I speak, because it comes from a place of me also not being 100% confident in myself, so it's something that I'm working on regaining as well. But yeah, I think this will be actually good practice for me. I think you did great, Boshti.
Thanks. I approach this like I do my meetings. So basically what I'm actually saying is I have nightmares about it all week, and then by the time that like we're finally here, I'm just like, I just want the nightmares to end. So here we are.
And then you just go through it again.
So essentially, like, if you guys haven't noticed, a few things have changed. We are doing fandom commentary. It's just not centric to Star Wars, and I mean, we did kind of dabble in Marvel, but that wasn't really something that we were like super known for. It was a lot of just like our Star Wars commentary that we would essentially cover, and like so we have very diverse interests. We were trying to do essentially like an anime centric channel, but a big issue with that is releases are not congruent with the UK and with the United States. If you haven't noticed, even though Lauren and I's backgrounds look relatively similar, we are not in the same effing country. So it's very hard to essentially schedule reacts and reviews, because sometimes the releases can deviate almost 3 months between the countries. So we have committed and pivoted and basically reinvented the wheel again. So now we're just strictly doing pop culture commentary, so we can touch on the things that we absolutely love, but at our own convenience, so we don't have to like, illegally download things or like use a VPN to access it, because, it's a crapshoot either way that we approach it. So hopefully you will enjoy this more streamlined process. I've worked very hard because I have been absent. If you haven't noticed, we've been kind of hiding, trying to perfect this process, and it's still a work in process. You're gonna punch me again if I say the word process like 2 more times. So we're working on it. We're gonna kill it, but like we're gonna continue to perfect it. Okay, are you guys ready? Let's fucking do this. Like, awesome.
Lovely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that is probably the most that I will be able to laugh for like the next like 5 minutes, because the next subject isn't really something that you can laugh about. We are going to kind of, oh, and I will preface, because we have had some issues with the stream being interrupted due to the content that we were covering. I will be using certain proxies and different words. It's not to make fun or make light, it is just because YouTube is really hard on smaller channels when it comes to content, and like, they don't really like to recognize the context of what we're talking about. They just really like to come after our channel for the words that we use. So we will be talking about grape culture, and we also will be discussing instances of sexual assault. So if that is offensive to you, I do apologize. A definition will be included in the description of this video after the stream ends, so we can further reiterate that it is not to poke fun. It is just because YouTube really wants to come for our fucking necks. Okay, so moving forward. We are going to be talking about consent and sexual coercion. It is really unfortunate that this occurred in the YouTube community, but it did, and it's really not our vibe to kind of talk about drama that occurs on the YouTube platform, because we really want to focus more on civics and essentially pop culture, like in a much like higher view. But this is a instance that Lauren and I, or sorry, Ren and I have both uh, essentially been victim to. And since we have first person experience with this particular set of circumstances, and we're not saying this to essentially like dilute or like make light of this young lady's experience, but because we are knowledgeable in this arena, we would just like to bring light to what coercion is, so we can essentially attempt to stigmatize it and not contribute to its continued greenlighting in pop culture. It's been used as literally the cornerstone for comedy, like films that are like iconic. It is a very common relationship element or trope in television and film, and I really just don't want to continue supporting, films or franchises that are really okay with, again, greenlighting this type of behavior. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to kind of just read over what essentially happened to this young lady. And this is coming from Business Insider. This is a 28-page article. So I am just briefly going to read a summary provided by Business Insider to essentially explain what happened. The creators that were involved were actually David Dobrik, who is one of the largest content creators on the YouTube platform. He's huge. And even though it wasn't he who is being accused of sexual assault and rape, it is his best friend, Dirty Dom, and I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm just going to use that pseudonym. Again, not making light of the situation, it's just I don't want to butcher his name and have people constantly get focused on the wrong thing. He's potentially or allegedly a perpetrator of sexual assault and rape, so please understand. Again, so per Business Insider, and this young woman is going under the alias of Hannah. Her name, I believe, hasn't been released to the public. She does not want to be recognized as a victim. It is my understanding that she just came forward for closure and to essentially bring awareness to the fact that this did happen. So it was a 20-year-old sophomore at a private liberal arts school in Los Angeles at the time that this instance did occur. She did not know what to expect, but she was up for an adventure. She did get invited to I believe David Dobrik's home to create content under the guise of a content collaboration. She said that she couldn't have predicted what would happen that evening and that the events have left her with trauma, completely understandable. And in phone interviews with Insider, Hannah accused, and I'm going to attempt it just for sport, Zyglatis of rape by engaging in sexual activity with her that night while she was so incapacitated by alcohol that she could not consent. She says that members of the Vlog Squad, David Dobrik's team of co-collaborators that he makes content with almost regularly, she has alleged that they supplied alcohol to her and her friends who were too young at the time to buy it themselves. So, what is consent and what is coercion? Consent, I think, I'm not going to assume that people have the understanding, but consent does require like you to be cognitively capable. You cannot I'm not going to, okay, this is like such a difficult thing to dance around like in real time, because in my brain, like I wrote like a whole like citation and everything, but we're trying to go off of the dome here. So basically consent it's mutual. You do not have to manipulate to get it if both people are good game in giving. Like that's a nod for like all like of like the people that read like a lot of Craigslist like wanted columns. Sorry, very dark segue, but that's for my real ones out there. Basically, if people are good game in giving, if they're triple G, ready to go with the situation, it does not require the added portion of coercion. Now, coercion doesn't have like a really concrete, like uniform legal definition statewide. The interpretation of it differs state to state, sometimes district to district, county to county. So, we will go into defining what coercion is and what mental incapacitation is, and how that plus mental incapacitation can essentially equal a lack of consent, and therefore can contribute to sexual assault and potentially rape. So this young lady was already at a disadvantage because she was severely intoxicated. Now, if you cannot speak, if you cannot fully acknowledge your surroundings, if you cannot remember how you got there, a really good chance is that you cannot give consent, because you do not have the mental faculty in order to really understand what is going on and what you're about to engage in. Sorry, just checking. There's a weird
was noise. Me. No, that was weird noise from my computer.
Oh no, I was just like, you guys are fine. Basically, we're on a new stream thing. We're streaming from Melon, so I'm like never sure if like notifications that go off, like if it's Melon or if it's like
it was
what's
Windows Defender.
So it's you.
It was making sure my computer was all right.
Fighting the viruses. I respect it. Working overtime. Yeah. Thank you, Windows. But yeah. So essentially, it's terrifying because when people think of rape, we think of how it's depicted in films. It's very, like aggressive. We don't really think of like there's no build up. They don't really explore the build up. They don't really explore the before. They just really, it's very more common to just like be demonized, like, oh my God, this is so terrifying. And they don't really explain like the after, she is traumatized. And as an SA survivor, my assault took place well over a decade ago. I'm still coping. It's a huge portion of why we're so inconsistent on the channel. Transparently, cameras were involved in my essay. So I have a very difficult time looking into a camera, documenting myself on camera, and fully engaging and, being the center focus of a camera. So it's like the fact that she can't even recognize herself as a survivor in this situation, like she hasn't even fully processed everything that's like happened, it's horrifying. And it's literally something that gets perpetuated and overlooked in pop culture all the time. And I really just, it's such, I don't want to say it's such a simple concept, but conceptually it is simple. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do not have to foster a perfect environment for consent to happen. If a person wants it, they willingly give it. There is no way to increase the odds. And if you find yourself increasing the odds in your favor where a person is just very unsure of what they want to engage in, you, my friend, are engaging in coercion. It's like, I'm sorry. It's just that is the reality. So it's just, you cannot force it, and trying to fix the game, that in itself is coercion. So if your friend, if anyone around you is literally audibly trying to fix the game in their favor, that is coercion. Period.
Oh, do you mind if I yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think what's
I've been talking for way too long.
No, dude, you're fine. I don't want to interrupt your flow and things. The one thing, so I actually chose to not watch any of the videos just because I wasn't gonna do that out of respect for her, but also just you know, yuck. And one of the things that I did read about was an Instagram post that went live by Dirty Dom. I hate his name so much. I hate saying it. It just sounds so disgusting. But he was he was saying, he was inviting people to come over. He said and people might even use this as but they went over to this house and he had like sexual like connotations to the things that he was posting. He wanted ladies to come around, he wanted them to have fun. That is still so, it was, so Hannah and her friend, they see this, they decide, we're going to have fun, we're going to go over to this house. But the moment that, again, when you are incapacitated with alcohol and you are in an environment where you're not in control and you have, again, influencers surrounding you, there's cameras on you, that is also maybe not even, it's like, I don't want to say it's a passive form of coercion, but she was talking about how she felt as if she couldn't say no because of the environment that she was in, because of their status, because of it's almost even maybe not the situation specifically, but there is this thing that I think happens with women, as if it's this pressure that just shouldn't exist, but it does. It's like, you say no, instantly like a prude. They're telling them, drink more, you're not being fun, like, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing that? And there's, again, the questions that are coming out, well, why didn't they just leave? Why didn't they just do that? But it's that passive mentality, that coercion that goes into your head, and it's like, it paralyzes you in a sense. And these women, like Hannah, it was, just such a toxic and horrible environment for them to be in. And that's just, instantly when I was reading about this scenario, the one thing, you know, that stuck out. And um I yeah, it's just, yeah.
So there's an interesting
Hmm.
conversation amongst the YouTube community about power
Hmm.
dynamics. And this comes into play constantly, whether it's a corporate
Yeah.
workspace, whether it's a key component, and coercion more often than not. I don't want
Hmm.
to say it's exclusively the case. I just, there is always, 9 times out of 10, and don't quote me on that statistic. I mean, if you guys want statistics, you know how Google works, but it is more common than not that a power dynamic or some kind of power shift does come into play when coercion exists or is taking place. So, from the moment that she stepped into this home, the power
Hmm.
dynamic shifted. You know what I'm saying? This was not conversations being had like strictly online. She is now a part of this world. She's now a part of the content. She's a part of the cast, essentially, for
Hmm.
this to be created. Um, Now, I don't know much about David's content. The most that I know is that like EA Sports gave the kid like a Ferrari or like some kind of like crazy, like car, you know, um, and that he's kind of already been, under the magnifying glass as far as for potentially encourage, and this is alleged again, encouraging young children to gamble with like whatever kind of, puzzle or like,
I
merch that he's got out
haven't
there.
heard that. I'm gonna be honest though, Bashti. I actually, when you brought this up to me, I had
Hmm.
no idea who he was, and the
Yeah,
fact that he had 18.8 billion followers, I was like, what?
mega. I
I've
mean,
never heard of him.
massive, like just disgusting amounts of followers, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, and most of your content is like consumed by like young teens,
Yeah.
so yeesh, this is not,
Yeah.
and it's also like used. Sorry, my stepdad is texting me. Um,
I thought it sounded like a microwave actually. It was so clear on this end that I had to like check. I was like, it's like fire alarm, microwave.
Shout out to my excellent microphone. Um, but yeah, so essentially, like a lot of his content is to it's centered around like the college experience,
Hmm.
and yeah, this is not good, you've seen, because if this is if this is like the glorified like frat bro like experience, and this is basically first exposure to kids who are pursuing a secondary education, if they're pursuing a college degree, I
I
hope
mean,
that
the
they are.
stereotypes are already so incredibly, I mean, that again just digs into a whole other conversation of how important it is to have these conversations on the internet, and how important, like, influencers have so much voice. They influence people. That's why they're called influencers. And
Yeah,
when you're a child listening to this, seeing this, and you think it's okay, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go to university and be this piece of shit. Like, I just, you know,
and it's like,
um
no, and
no, please
that's,
don't.
and me, I'm just like, I mean, I'm not even gonna say that I'm surprised that the content is monetized, you know what I'm saying, but
Mhm.
I believe the number was 5 million views before this video, this particular vlog, was even taken down. And then, like, as you do the research and you kind of read
Yeah.
through, elements of the video were changed to basically like over glamorize or like camp, make like add camp, and kind of just add humor, to the fact that this was a very, very ugly thing that just happened, and that because they're in it, and because this is funny somewhere, I
I
don't know
mean,
to who, but there's just, they took out the parts that basically added the correct like alarms, you know what I'm
mhm.
saying, and basically over exaggerated certain elements so they could take the focus off of what actually was happening. Like they neglected to show the things that Hannah was going through, like the fact that like she could not sit up on her own, she could not use the restroom by herself, that that her friends basically had to do something that I guess people call like pull the trig, where it was just like to induce vomiting so she could
Yeah.
like at
There's a
least.
designated driver there as well, and I think she was the one who was able to kind of just like, watch this whole situation. And again, although she was sober, although she was the designated driver, that's still like you're in this environment where there is a power dynamic, and you have friends, you have people, like it's not
It's
as
there's
simple as,
money,
yeah.
it's exposure, everything is being documented,
Hmm.
but is like, are you actually seeing, like, as the audience, like, even though everything is being documented, everybody, like,
Hmm.
there's tons of cameras, it's like everything's being manipulated, like, out of reality, but like meanwhile, like, this girl is just begging her friends to understand what happened. And then
Hmm.
we're not even talking about the fact that there was another girl involved. This was a setup for a threesome. And so the fact that I can hear it in my head. This girl is like explaining she had to take over for Hannah so she could get Dom off of her. The fact
That,
so
I didn't
that
I didn't read that part.
that is the part that I think like absolutely destroys me about
Mm.
this, is it's like a girl basically had to subject herself to further risk, you know what I'm saying, to protect her
Mhm.
friend, even because she's in the same boat, like she also was coerced into this situation. Nobody, if they had told me, like, basically, if these girls had shown up at, like, whatever time and no alcohol was needed and all of this had happened and that was just what was up, then like we would not be making this video right now. This is not what that's not what happened. It took a lot of one-on-one time. Dom would not leave Hannah alone. And guys, I'm not exaggerating this. If you want to go read the near 30-page article, feel free. It's going to be in the description below, as well as several other links that basically correlate the things that I'm saying. But like, it was a lot of one-on-one time, FaceTime, him in this girl's
Mhm.
face, trying to convince her of what this. But the minute that they stepped in the door, they didn't know that this was the type of content, or at least that is what is insinuated in these
Mhm.
articles. They didn't know what the theme of the video was. And I'm sorry, like I know everybody really loves to shift blame, like, oh my god, the guy's name is Dirty Dom, like what did they explain, like had they never seen
Or
their con?
he
No.
he made a video, like why'd they go over there in the first place if they're super drunk? They're going to a house full of influencers and it's all guys. Like
It's like
it's like
no. It's
no.
no. It's like I will not hear it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because it's like they went under the guise of they were just there to have a good time. I'm sorry, but like I've been to your girl loved to party. Like I know that like I look like your hot aunt right now, but like back in the day, 10 years ago, before I had like the gray and everything else, like I loved college parties. And but I can tell you what, they didn't end up with me like having to every time that I went to one, they didn't end up with me having to beg what happened to me the next day. You know what I'm saying? Like if I I'm sorry, like I don't like hookup culture. I don't participate in that. And
Mhm.
so um and that could be like my own trauma, like my own neuroses, I don't know, but it's like I don't engage in that, and I am thankful that every time that I left one of these parties that I was able to do so alone and in the and return to the safety of my own bed and wake up okay. With whatever I lacked to remember was my own fault. You know what I'm saying? Because I drank
Mhm.
myself past a capacity to be able to recall things. So it's like, but yeah, I'm sorry. Like I just, if you want to have a good, I don't get it. If why like certain members, and I'm not going to make this a gender thing, but it's a
Mhm.
gender thing. Why certain members of our society get to go out and get as hammered as they
Mhm.
want. You know what I'm saying? Reckless abandon, and it's just like, yeah, freaking YOLO. But the minute that we decide that like this is our, we just want to get plastered, the members of society that look like us, the minute that we decide that we want to go out and just get hammer drunk, like we want to like party with Jesus,
Like,
in a hair metal tee,
it
and then all of a
sucks.
sudden we're fair game. It sucks.
It sucks.
And it's like,
And-
that is the problem. That is great culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is what happens when these circumstances are watered down and diluted for basically comedic reward. It sucks. And I am so glad that films like Promising Young Woman, and if you guys are sick and tired of me talking about it, too bad. It's still gonna plug my video. Go watch it on our YouTube channel at Fueled by Pop on YouTube. Boom. I'm so glad that films like this exist, because it literally, it not only it adds humor where it's appropriate, but it also makes the disgusting look exactly as it is. There is no laugh track to the things that are supposed to be horrifying. And I love I oh my, Emerald Fennell, I believe, is the director and the writer for Promising Young Woman. The realism that she used, basically all of it, is on point. She is no cap, straight facts, like two Virgils on a stack, 100 on everything. Nothing that she does is basically out of the realm of reality, because she is also tired of the way that society perceives and continues to uphold this very toxic system. She deliberately used actors that we love from other properties. You seriously are going to want to punch McLovin in the face after watching Promising Young Woman, because it's like, there is no like like, there is no like sniveling like hilarity. Like, no, it shows a variety. It is a case study in the different methods of how coercion happens, and she did so with these particular men because she wanted to demonstrate that it is so normal in our society. She was trying to not make it the creepy guy, because it's not the creepy guy. Sometimes it's the nice guy, sometimes it's the feminist guy. Literally, guys, go watch my video. I break down all the different kind of guys that she features that are perpetrators.
I can't watch it. Like, I don't think I can, but like I at one point I do. I think it sounds like a very just intelligent film from what you've described it as, and like watching your video. So like listening to how you describe it, I really appreciate it as to like how she's portrayed it. But it's just, it's exhausting that it has to, or that it exists, and that events like this, things like this just keep popping up on the news. I mean, you know what, Boshti, like as we were brainstorming this podcast, I was thinking about, because we're going to dive into Minnesota later, and I was thinking of, well, me being from Minnesota, my personal experience, and then Minnesota has just, it's like don 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 don. Sorry, that was really Japanese of me.
That's okay.
She's like, for people that don't know me, I've lived in Japan for 5 years. Sometimes, like, I don't mean to offend anyone, but I speak Japanese, and
guys, we're putting the culture and pop culture, okay? Like, we speak a lot of languages on this show, okay? So, like, if you got a problem with it, leave it in the comments, okay?
Like,
don't come for us.
I'm happy to have the conversation about it, but yeah. So it's like don don don. There's so many. There's things that I wanted to continue to talk with you about, but we only have a certain amount of time with this. And then if we're looking at like the politics of the United States right now, it's like, oh my god. It's just so, I'm not sure what our swearing policy is.
I've already said like fuck like so many times.
Perfect.
So
lovely.
like, and I think we're still going. We're good. I think we got like 6 more.
Exhausting. It's just so exhausting. And I think one of the, going back as to, going back to that scenario, I cannot imagine the horror that occurred when she woke up and her friend, that was the designated driver, the sober one, had to tell her everything. And then all of a sudden this video is online.
2 days later. And she literally pushed it to the back of her mind because it's like, okay, maybe, you know, like, it doesn't matter.
It to the back of your mind. It's like you pray that it's like a horrible nightmare and that it didn't occur, and you push it as far back as you can until it's like you can't push it back any farther, and then it's like, bam, actually it's there. Like,
yeah,
it's
dude,
just
it's fucked. And it's just like, and that's with the hope that, oh, I don't know, 600,000 people aren't gonna see it the fucking minute.
18.8 million subscribers, again, that are I don't know his audience. From what you said, it's children, it's young children. You know what the unfortunate thing is I feel like influencers, if I think of Logan Paul, for example, that's another YouTuber that has like a huge amount of just young children watching him. And it's like, it's children are watching this. It's
so basically,
sorry,
no, you guys are, you're fine. It's just, it's infuriating because it's like, where is the accountability? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, I don't have an issue with vlogs. You know what I'm saying? I don't have an issue with distorting reality. I don't have problems with that. You know what I'm saying? But like, my problem is when there's no accountability and you're trying to rig certain situations to produce outcomes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna pretend like I am some expert on like the evolution of like vlog content. That's not what this is. Basically, it's, I don't know if it's an entitlement thing. I don't know if it's a weird flex. I don't understand where the disconnect happens, where you think it is okay to fix a situation that is probably going to get demonetized on the platform that you're on anyway, because I'm pretty sure sexual content, especially in a voyeuristic nature, I mean, it might not be against YouTube's policy guidelines, I don't know, but I know that like children as young as 13 can sign up for a YouTube account, and I don't want a 13-year-old seeing this. I don't want any of like my nieces and nephews to see things like that. So what in your right mind makes you think that it is okay to document a threesome on the other side of the door for a vlog? Like, just let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm missing something, but it's not okay.
The thing is, Boshti, is that they knew that what they did was not okay. Like, they joked about it afterwards. They're like,
they said we're going to jail
because of this. Oh my god, haha. It's like, okay, so you know that it's wrong. You're making a joke of it. There's, I think, as you were saying, like, why is there such a huge disconnect? How is there such a huge disconnect? And I think, like, looking back at the content of, you know, having to research his past videos and like who he is and what he does, like, he's pissed off so many people. I think there is, and I apologize for not getting names right because there's so many people within his realm of content, but I think there was him trying to convince that his friend was going to be kissing someone else, and then he got kissed by I think it was Jason Nash.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was talking about how he got so upset afterwards as well. Like, he was like, what? And it's also, it's not just using your friend it's not just using Jason as, a prop for content. It's using the female as, haha, you're going to, like, not even asking that female. I think it was Paytas. I again, I apologize if I'm not getting the names right.
Trisha,
yeah.
it's okay.
Trisha. And then I can't remember the third person, but he has a history of using people for content, and it's like he thinks that because these are my friends, like, it's not even just about, the issue of consent, sexual consent. It's also just, he has a issue of consent in general, about whether it's just, platonic consent. He's not getting permission from people about the things. Like, he has no social understanding of what is acceptable and what's not. And to me, that's just, I see that not just in him, but in a lot of influencers as well. And I'm wondering why.
And we'll cover it, but first, guys, we're going to just take a quick break, and I'm going to throw the loading screen on so we can prepare for our next topic for a few minutes, and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. I'm going to unmute Miss Wren here. Hey, lady. Sexy girlfriend.
Just like hunched over, like staring at my phone. Actually, every time, like my sexy boyfriend. Like, it's just, it's a thing.
I forget what the sexy girlfriend thing is from. I feel like Ben Stiller says that
I
in the movie.
actually don't know, but it just reminded me of what I say to, like, Luke whenever he does something.
All right, guys, we have reached that point in the podcast where we are fueled by pop, so I am finna pop my drink open on 3, 2, and...
Wait, okay, I have a question. What is that? I'm really upset. Can I tell you why I'm upset? Every time I go to a supermarket in the UK, excuse me, a grocery store, every time I go to a grocery store in the UK, I either cry, I get angry, or I just get frustrated or really bad anxiety. Like, because I can never find what I want, and I'm wandering, like, everyone's wearing a mask, it's crowded, I just don't want to be in there, and I'm like, where's the White Claw? Where's this? Where's the corn flour? Like, this is me on the cart, by the way. I'm just...
Oh my god, that's so adorable. Just, I just don't want to be here.
Yeah, but I'm like sitting there hunched over.
So I will spare you the trouble. This is Flying Embers. It's a Phoenix reference. And it is a 0 sugar, 0 carbs, hard kombucha. And it's got an ABV of 4.5%. So
can you send this to me? Let's see if I can find it here.
I absolutely will.
White Claw just arrived in 2020, and apparently I still cannot find it at Waitrose, but you can get it at a Tesco Express. For anyone.
Dude, I will say this: I did kind of get to see like what like grocery stores and stuff in England like look like, because I just any little British like cutie on like skateboards and stuff that like wants to take me through downtown London, like with some kind of like headcam or like whatever. Anytime you want. It can't be me
I
because
might just trip on my skateboard.
I almost broke my ankle, so I am not allowed to skateboard anymore. So yeah, I just watched the cuties do it, and not referencing the nudie.
Then it's pandemic, so fair enough.
But yeah, so your grocery stores look fabulous though, and they remind me a lot of Toronto.
Before we move on, I just have to comment of like when I was trying to find corn flour, I got cornstarch.
Oh no.
And when I want cornstarch, I got something completely different. So it's just like corn flour, and it makes sense. It's called cornmeal here.
Mm.
Fair, fair. But why is cornstarch called corn flour? It just confuses people. It's like when I ask, I actually every time I go, I have to ask the people that work there. I'm like, can you help me find this? Can you help me find that? Because Luca also doesn't know what I'm talking about. He's like, I don't know what you want, and I'm like, I don't know how to explain it.
Oh no. God, why is it so expensive to ship to you? I would just get you all the things. Like, I just want to get you all the things.
Give me a White Claw.
Yeah. See,
But
this is why we need to get sponsored by any kind of gluten-free alcohol. So, gluten-free alcohol industry, if you're looking for two adorable, fashion-forward millennials who aren't woke scolds, but we do keep our finger on the pulse.
Well. Yeah, I can I'll do something, don't worry. You know what? When I found out that recently, because I used to work at a tiki bar, right? I found out that White Claw is out and Truly is in. But when my bar was selling Truly, everyone was like, White Claw! And I'm like, but no, Truly's great. And they're like, no, White Claw!
I mean, it is good, and they do have better flavors, but you can't say Truly our... No, you say clawlessness. And okay, what are you gonna do with Truly? Pinky's up, this is Truly.
This is my poison that I've been hunting down for 4 years. It's actually the cutest bottle. Can I show? Is it okay?
Yes.
Just petting it. So this is a shochu. So it's called Kimiya. It's from Miyazaki-ken, which is in the Chugoku area so it's in the western north. Never eat soggy worms. It's the western part of Japan. I'm not great with directions.
Never eat soggy worms. Good to know. Good to
Wait, have you never heard that? Have you never
No.
used that? That's how my elementary school taught us. It was never eat soggy worms.
Would you look at that little bean on the ladder? Look at this guy.
Oh no.
Cat break, guys. That's Simba. That's the bane of my existence right there. But also the apple of my eye. He's cute. He's a cutie.
But I hunted this down for 5 years. Finally. Wait, 2018. No, that would be 3 years. I hunted it down for 3 years.
I was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to be that old. We
I
can't.
found this finally at a local place, and I'm just so happy. I recommend it to anyone that can find it. Good luck. It's really difficult to in the Western realm.
Everybody just send her a bottle right now, and if not, you should join our Patreon so she can buy more.
Support my
I'm just saying, guys. It's on the ticker.
You know what? If we do that, I'll actually go back to my bartending skills, and then I can just end up making, special drinks.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. We're just coming up with content on the fly. But again, Patreon exclusive. I mean, you see this stream right now, but once it's over, it's gone. Audio only for the public. But if you want to continue to see these beautiful mugs, not only live, but in hindsight as well, you gotta...
Actually, if you guys look close enough, I have one eye. Sorry.
I have one eye.
No, so for 1 year in middle school, I had really bad pink eye. I don't even think it was pink eye, because the amount of eye doctors I went to couldn't, kept re-diagnosing me, but my left eye, the left eye, was just sick for an entire year, and it ended up, it's better now, but my eyesight in that eye is a bit bad, which is why I wear glasses, and the lid lowers, just a little bit lower. So if you guys look at me for too long and focus, you'll like see that my eyes are quite uneven and I look like just a little bit waved most of the time if I'm staring and focusing and paying attention.
Oh, you got Mona Lisa face. You got a Mona Lisa face. That's okay. I also have the same problem, but it's because I was in an accident and somebody's head went square into my eye, and I was actually temporarily blind for like 2 weeks because they severed an optic nerve back there. So, but it's okay. I can see now. I'm fine. I'll be all right. But yes, that was our break. I hope you all enjoyed that. My shameless Patreon plugs and how we need to get sponsored by an alcohol company soon. We will also take dispensaries, but we know that YouTube wouldn't be okay with that, but we still are, so choose your fighter.
So, and this is one of the reasons that we decided to go in the direction that we are, is that we just want to be ourselves. We just want to talk. We want to have these conversations without any concern or anxiety. We're just being 100% us.
Well, it's difficult to have these kinds of conversations when you're a fandom-centric channel. You know, like, Star Wars is lucky enough to,
Do you see this right here?
Do I see? Oh, is that a saber? Is that a lightsaber?
It's attached to it now. I should have done it the way that I did. But yeah, so this is the it's a collectible. If the company sponsors, the company then should sponsor us. I won't plug it. I think it's called Ultra Sabers actually. But I had a customized saber made,
that's pretty sexy.
It's super fancy.
Well, would you just look at it?
Oh no.
Bro. Okay, so let me think here, where did we leave off? So
actually,
you have a good segue?
I have a good segue.
Yes, segue me away.
Alcohol and consent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent segue.
Crack my knuckles.
Crack.
Let me get my notes out.
You're good. Wait, not to quote another channel, but show notes.
No, that's great. I like it. No, I was taking notes earlier just a bit because it helps me recollect my thoughts as well. And I'm happy to be open with having ADHD and just trying to constantly put thoughts together as well. The notes are just constantly a savior for me. But yeah, Minnesota and consent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And to put a bow on the David Dobrik thing, so, because I think where we left off, we were going to discuss essentially our firsthand experiences, but I think you guys can tell that we're passionate enough about the subject, and this isn't going to be the last time because, again, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's not just a day. It's not limited to just one discussion. We'll be more than happy to talk about this. We can even talk about it at the end. You know, we might get there. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with the Minnesota stuff as well. So just understand that this particular incident was it hit home very much with us, and we just wanted to make sure that you guys understand, our followers, not men specifically, but you are included, thank you, the seriousness of coercion, and we're going to continue to define and give evidence and circumstance to how coercion can occur, not just in a power dynamic of influencer and viewer, but also in workplace situations, and just, if you're out having a drink. So again, stay tuned, and we're actually going to move to the Minnesota, Jesus Christ, to the Minnesota court ruling that has been literally all over the news for about the last 2 weeks now. So Lauren Wren, Jesus Christ, is from Minnesota. She's not there now, so don't try to hunt her down because you won't find her. You know, just don't do that. You shouldn't do that. That's
Um,
another creepy thing you shouldn't
just
do.
let me know if I still have an accent though, because like I have such a strange. I adapt to accents too easily, but like I take a strange like because it's part accents are a part of identity, I suppose. So like for me, I'm like I just want to keep on to my Minnesota accent as much as I can, even though it's such a shit state at sometimes. Yeah.
Would you like
So
to lead on this, please?
yeah.
Go
So
for it.
yeah. Um. Yeah. So let's just talk about Minnesota for a bit.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So interesting enough how I found out about this is I was scrolling through my Instagram, and all of a sudden I was clicking on one of the stories of the people that I was following. This person is from the UK, and it was a repost of a news or a report channel that focuses on things that are important that aren't getting enough attention in the world. And she posted how the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled that in the case of sexual assault, if a woman hasn't been forced to drink by the assaultant, then it's just not considered rape. And I was like, what? That can't be true. One, because usually my Facebook, I'm not sure if it's just Minnesotans, but like usually my Facebook feed is just constantly don 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 don, and people are quite on top of things. But everything was just silent. I didn't hear about anything, so I had to do my own research. And this was from a day ago, and I'm like, but this is a day old, and I haven't heard anything about it. So it sounds as if this has been silently almost pushed under the rug, as if nobody wanted it to be heard. Turns out, Minnesota has quite archaic laws. It wasn't just actually regarding alcohol, for example. I don't think it was legal to sell it on Sundays until a couple of years ago. And we're really bad at trying to create new legislation, to create new laws for these archaic laws that exist, because we don't really, I don't know. I have this internal conflict with my own state because I try to see it as a progressive state. I think it's quite progressive compared to a lot of other states. But actually, at the end of the day, and we can see it from our racial issues. For me inside, I mean, we were on the news all of last summer with George Floyd, that we have our own issues. And that goes into a whole other conversation of a little bit of something that maybe I want to talk about in terms of Minnesota Nice, which I find quite toxic. But basically, in 2000, let me just make sure that I got the date right. So in 2017, in Dinkytown, and I know that sounds really funny and you can laugh at the name of that.
You can, you're welcome to laugh.
Dinkytown is the college town at the University in Minnesota. It's basically, how should I explain it? This is where I drink. This is where I went out. I attended the University of Minnesota, so for me, this is quite, to hear it, it's just, it's too close to home. And a woman was enjoying her night out. She shows up to a bar. The bar isn't listed, or I couldn't find the bar, but it's probably a bar that I myself went to when I was in university. But the bar denied her from going in because she was too intoxicated. This is important, people.
Yeah, very important.
The bar didn't let her in because she was too intoxicated. Okay? Well, a man by the name of Francois, I don't want to mispronounce it, and I apologize if I do. Francois Khalil, and saw her and said, "Hey, there's a party at my house. Do you want to join?" She said, "Yeah." So he takes her back to his place. There is no party. And being incapacitated, remember, a bar completely denied her. She wakes up in a very she wakes up yeah, and you're welcome to interject at some point as well.
No,
too, if you want to help me.
essentially she wakes up to sexual assault. She's waking up to a man in the middle of some compromising acts. And look, she did everything right. Maybe not the and okay, I don't even want to say maybe. So she was perfectly within her right to be with her friends. You know, she was out partying with her girlfriends. You know, she got wasted well within her own right. Like, if you want to do that while you're out with your girls, by all means, like do you, boo boo. Like, I'm not going to judge you for that.
Oh, sorry.
And she also and no, you're fine. No, I just want to say, and she also sought legal ramifications for the things that happened to her. Like, she basically, it's not a lack of effort on her part to get this addressed so she can get the closure that she deserves on, for this particular like traumatizing event. It's the legal system that failed her. Literally, bar did what it was supposed to do. It refused her entry because literally allowing someone in that is that visibly intoxicated, that puts the bar at liability. Like, people, don't forget, you can die from alcohol poisoning. You can die from slipping and falling because you are absolutely too intoxicated to stand. And if the establishment is found liable for getting you that intoxicated, that's on them. It doesn't matter how hard you partied before you got to that place.
That was definitely constantly, on my mind of, and we're strict. It is very strict. And compared to the state next door, Wisconsin, it does seem just a bit, I feel as if we're almost like a prude state in how strict we are with alcohol, but it's there for a reason. It's there not just for personal protection of the individual, but it is there for the facility as well. Because I could literally end up in jail, for up to, actually forgetting it at this point, it's either 3 or 5 years. Maybe don't quote me on that because it's been a while. But you can end up in jail. You can be responsible for the death of someone. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Again, being in Dinkytown and personally in my experience and kind of being able to relate to how the evening, would have been. Like, Dinkytown is an experience as a college student. It's where everyone goes to have fun. It's just what we do on the weekends. It's, we do it on Thursdays as well. You get rejected from a bar and someone invites you to a house party. Like, that's such a normal thing to do. Like, you don't really question it. And it's interesting because I think about it now. And my father, before I went to university, he always told me, he's like, when you're in Dinkytown, and he never told me specifically why, but he said, when you're in Dinkytown, just, always be on guard and never go down the streets that don't have street lights. Because at the end of the day, like, it is still a part of, even though it's not on campus, you have so many people not a part of the university, enjoying these things. Like, it's not controlled, it's not college controlled, it's not university controlled. Like, anyone can go there. You could literally be enjoying your 100th birthday party in Dinkytown. And so it's just, you know, an individual wanting to have a good time, like enjoying her night out, her evening out.
So basically, y'all, the point is that it's a problem when a person does everything that they're supposed to do to seek accountability for a wrong that has legally been done and thrust upon them. And the system is, and the laws are written in such a way that it is fully within, like, what is the best way? I don't want to say it's fully within, but basically it is fully possible for the law to be interpreted in such a way that it victim blames the person who was assaulted. And that's what happened with the Minnesota ruling. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and throw on the screen here essentially rips, literal rips, from essentially the legislation in place for Minnesota and what happens and how they define sexual assault and how they define mental incapacitation. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just go ahead and read here. That Minnesota law offers few protections if you're sexually assaulted when you are drunk. Asphalted. Sorry. All right, I get 2 more of those. Consent means words or overt actions by a person indicating a freely given present agreement to perform a particular sexual act with the actor. Consent does not mean the existence of a prior or current social relationship between the actor and the complainant, or that the complainant failed to resist a particular sexual act. You must be intoxicated or drugged against your will for it to qualify as mentally incapacitated. As it is defined by state law, a person under the influence of alcohol, a narcotic, anesthetic, or any other substance administered to that person without the person's agreement lacks the judgment to give a reasoned consent. Or you must be asleep or passed out. Physically helpless is another circumstance, which means that a person is asleep or not conscious. So, I'm going to pause right there. Oh my god, get out of my... Go away.
Oh.
No, sorry, it was a pop-up. You're fine. Please continue.
Yeah, so the thing is too, when I was going through and, you know, researching this, trying to understand the full story, is that actually initially the ruling, he did get arrested. So he was initially arrested for 3rd-degree criminal conduct.
He was.
Yeah, so which includes maximum of 15 years in prison, and you get put on a sex offenders list. But what happened was his attorney, so this again happened in 2017, and I can't remember the reason as to why it rolled out until, you know, to 2021, but the attorney looked at that definition, said, but this is your law. And the Supreme Court couldn't really do anything about that.
So I do know what happened. And basically, Minnesota is undergoing redefining what mental incapacitation means. And they've been in this process, I think, for quite a few years. It's been about 3 or 4 years now. And they're very close to having it put into legal verbiage, an expansion of what mental incapacitation is. So this lawyer, knowing that they are actively expanding what the definition of mental incapacitation is, used to their advantage the lack of clarification over what qualifies as helpless or mentally incapacitated. they knowingly went in and used in their defense as some form of strategy that essentially, because Minnesota failed to think, oh, hey, even if you get taken advantage of sexually and it's your own fault that you're in the state that you're in, it still qualifies as a lack of consent.
Mhm.
So they didn't think, oh, well, no one would get like trashed and then like somebody would prey like on a trash person. Like, no, they didn't think of that. And because of that short sight, this particular this particular attorney is using this as a basically not get out of jail free, because he will still have
got out of jail free. So
but basically it heavily, because of this verbiage, the sentence was heavily reduced, and basically the level of accountability was also reduced. So because of Minnesota's lack of foresight into what could qualify as mental incapacitation for whatever reason, that Francois Khalil is basically getting a very light sentence and is not going to have the type of criminal history that would put him on a list and basically force the state to basically notify neighborhoods that he is not a safe person to have lived there. And I'm sorry, for lack of a better term, it's fucking bullshit, guys. It's fucking bullshit that this girl is traumatized, that she has to live with this for the rest of her life, and basically has to wait for the law. Guys, I don't have a ghost. My cat just really loves going into my closet. Everything's fine. That she basically has to live with the fact that, like, the state couldn't do everything that it was supposed to do to put this person in jail. And now her case, and probably several others, because unfortunately it's just part of the culture, other people are going to have to suffer similar consequences of not getting the justice that they deserve, because this definition of the law is stuck in limbo because it's being expanded upon. So yeah, that's brass tacks, essentially. Please continue.
No, it's fine. And like, I don't want to talk too much about my experience, but I was incredibly shocked at how the state handles sexual assault, because I had a complete opposite experience with my own university. But there was a report back in 2020 about how 1,700 grape kits had been untested and were just sitting with the police. And it's not interesting, it's upsetting. But from the same article that we're showing up here as well, from the Star Tribune, and the Star Tribune is one of Minnesota's major news sources, it was actually saying that police are more likely to help if alcohol has been involved regarding the case. And the analysis of like 1,000 cases 1,000 cases. Oh my gosh, I apologize, guys. I cannot read my own notes.
And it's also, guys, give her a break. It's really late where she is. So, like, please be kind, okay? Don't come for her. Come for me, because it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon where I am. So, don't you dare. No, they're not, waifu. You're fine. Please, please continue.
No, but out of 1,000 cases from 2015 and 2016, only 1 to 20 cases resulted in conviction.
And we can't make this shit up.
Those were alcohol-related cases as well. Yeah, so I was it's every day, every week, I just become a bit more shocked I suppose, about my own state. I don't want to say I'm blinded, but I think in a way there's something about Minnesotan culture that really, we get looked over a lot in regards to, I mean, we're in the Midwest, the Northwest. So Minnesotans love Minnesota. And when you are raised to love your own state in not really like a patriotic way, but just like, oh, this is great, like, you tend to not see the things that are actually happening from behind the curtains. And the last couple of years have just been an incredible awakening, a horrible, unfortunate awakening of the reality of just things that are occurring and things that need to be fixed.
So, if this is not connecting the dots for you guys because you need empirical examples, here is a real life scenario that played out in my own life, and I will also not use names. Why I should feel compelled to protect my perpetrator, I am still seeking therapy for to this day, but I digress. So, if you guys are trying to understand how these things go from point A to point B, it's a lot of things. And if you're trying to understand it on a night out, if you're trying to understand it in a workplace scenario, if you're trying to understand it in a content creator scenario, which is more akin to a workplace scenario, but again, here we go. So essentially, when I was a bartender on the up and coming, it was in a very competitive nightclub market. Being a nightclub bartender requires a lot of skills. One, being very, very good at nonverbal communication. Two, being expedition of product, basically getting alcohol out as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So I am petite. It is not an easy industry to be taken seriously with as a woman, especially as a petite woman, because you have to command a presence and you have to possess a type of charisma that is going to get people to respect you. Now, our bartenders who are in the professional space, are they going to profess that this is their experience? Probably not. But I mean, again, this is a industry that is highly masculine, and they basically they exude the most authority, and they have the most success, and they are in a way leading and being purveyors of basically mixology, and they tend to lead in that field. I was very new behind my bar, and was working with a gentleman who did bartend on the weekends and some weekdays, but also doubled as a high school English teacher. So we did not like one another because I wasn't really thrilled about his clientele. I could tell that a lot of people that came in to see him were people that he had educated not too long ago. So these were, and a lot of them were very, very young women. So a lot of friction, working and closing with this particular gentleman, who we'll call B. And so me and B did not like working with each other, but we definitely had to feign a lot of like positive interaction, because this culture basically relies heavily on toxic positivity. I will not, that's a conversation for another episode. So essentially it was a environment where communication could be misconstrued constantly. Signals could be misinterpreted because, again, at the end of the day, we are trying to secure a fat tip pot. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's the gratuities at the end of the night. They basically all get thrown into a big vase and we split it in pool-like fashion. So, this particular bartender B had not been doing real great. I don't know if he was just having an off night. Maybe he didn't have enough of, his favorite kind of clientele to come in and really kind of line his pockets, but it led to a lot of downtime in his well. So it led to some conversations. I'm going to actually get rid of this thing here.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but...
No, you're fine. So it led to basically a lot of side conversation between he and I, and it was a slower night, but it was great music. And sometimes, I'm not saying that this is always, and I'm not even saying that this is recommended. I know it is not good to drink on the job. I know that, but sometimes you do, to get through a pretty long shift. I was working in open to close. This particular bar opens at 3. We didn't close until 3, which means that I would not be leaving until about 4 or 5 o'clock after all bar closing was done. So it was a very long shift. Sometimes you get a shot in, at the 6-hour mark to make it the rest of the way. So, that happened, and that kept happening. And basically, it kind of, due to conversation and competitive just sportsmanship, and basically just trying to continue to push the boundaries so we continue to entertain our patrons and continue to basically generate as much tip revenue as we could, it led to me getting to a pretty intoxicated state. I'm not ugly, so I'm a fun person to buy shots for. If you ever see me, YouTube community, just send your girl a drink. I would absolutely love that. But probably should make light about this particular situation. So, this guy, seeing and understanding the power dynamic, I am newer than he is. I am less sober than he is, and am also in a point of desperation because I am doing as much as I possibly can to secure a money-making quota so I can continue to pay my rent. So, some things happened that probably shouldn't have happened that particular night that led to some not great circumstances. This particular evening, because we were forced to, the girls were forced to bartend in very tight dresses, many short dresses. At one point in the evening, this particular bartender folded my dress up above my waist, so my whole ass was out. And not a lot of people work with bars that have mirrors behind their bar to make it look like there's more alcohol than there actually is, but our bar did have a mirror, and so my whole ass was out to this entire crowd. And so that's kind of like where things started to go downhill. There's a lot of touching. There were attempts for people to like sever my underwear strings. I was in a thong, so it was not a lot left to the imagination. And after all of this humiliation and like wearing down and continued alcohol consumption to cope with the fact that my ass had been revealed in real time to probably about 250 people, waiting in line for drinks in a nightclub, let's just say that I was pretty desperate to get the fuck out of that bar when it came closing time. And this particular bartender, B, seizing an opportunity where I was not really able to properly think about, like, oh, how am I going to get home, blah, 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 offered me a ride. And one thing I will tell you, world, is if you want good life advice, it comes from my dad. Sorry, he doesn't charge by the hour, but I digress. So...
I already like your dad.
I know, everybody loves my dad. We'll bring him on the channel one time, guys, for the culture. But essentially, my dad has always taught me, if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. That means that people are not as good as they think that they are at hiding their true selves. You know, if they're honest about it, if they're offering it, then you need to really believe it. And so this particular gentleman, B, was like, if I give you a ride, you're not going home. Me, too intoxicated to understand, oh, B wouldn't do me like that. We work together. I have to see this man so much, you know, like here on out. And so, you know, I have never wanted to sleep with B. You know, he had never expressed an interest in any kind of like even mild flirtation until my ass was out in front of my bar only a few hours before. So, totally never ever understood that this was the deal. So I just took it as like, oh, he's just being silly, like whatever, like not a big deal. So not understanding the situation, I hop in the car with B, and off we go into the night at 5 o'clock in the morning. So guys, if you are easily disturbed, I'm sorry, but I do not like to spare on details, so this is your trigger warning, because this is where things kind of like take a serious right turn. So see yourselves out if this kind of stuff like wrecks your stomach, because it's gonna get real ugly from here on out. So I'm in a car with a man I don't know, whose last name I do not know, and I am just trying to get home. So I am not awake for this ride again. Started at 3 p.m., leaving at 5 a.m. It's a 14-hour shift for those who cannot do math. So, yeah. And so in between, you know, red lights, I'm napping because, you know, the bar that I work at, I used to take public transit to. So I'm used to it being about an hour commute, and it's about a 20 to 30 minute drive to get home. So I'm not sussed out by the fact that it's taking longer than usual, because I know that like I'm not sensing time like the way that I normally would. So we pull up to a place that is not my home. I realize, oh crap, I never gave this guy my address. Stupid me. I can fix this. I'm not too far from here, I think. I don't fucking know, because I've literally been asleep the entire time. And so I'm like, it's cool, we'll talk about it when we get in his place. I'm assuming it's his place, and I can get this fixed. Okay, so he drags me out of the car. There's no real conversation. It's just, we're here, you know, and I am like, literally, I am undoing my seatbelt, and he's like already out of the car on the other side, throwing the door open and pulling me out. I'm just like, whoa, don't need your help. Hate to be that drunk girl, but like, here we are. And yeah, so it's a lot of like back and forth. Like, I don't want to get out of the car. Like, this isn't my house. This isn't my place. I don't want to get out. And it's like, no, you're fine. Like, just get out. And like, no, I'm not fine, because this is where I'm supposed to be. Whatever. So I am dragged into his living room. I sit there to collect myself. He starts undoing his shirt. So I am explaining to him, look, I'm not sleeping here. I don't even, like, can you please just take me home? I don't even know where we are. Like, and I don't know you. I don't even like you. Like, what the fuck? You're an asshole. So it's like, I don't even want to talk to you. You're not going home. I'm like, well, I gotta do something because I'm not staying here. And so he's like, well, then if you're gonna stay here, then I'll show you where you're staying. And so I am not shown, I am dragged upstairs. So I am freaking the fuck out at this point, guys, because like, I don't get like what's going on. I don't get like why it's an issue to take me home. Like, it's like, look, we just got paid. We just split the pot. I know how much money you just made tonight. If it's a thing about money, I'll give you as much money as you need. Take my entire fucking tip pool if you need it. I just want to go home. That's all I want. I just want to go home. And so B's not taking me home. And so B is instead taking off my pants. Well, sorry, I don't have pants. B's trying to basically ripped my dress. I am spread out like on stairs leading up to his bedroom, fighting to keep my dress down while he is trying to drag me and yank my dress up. So it results in me falling down the stairs with my dress over my head. I am sobbing because I am terrified and I don't understand why it is such an issue to just let me go the fuck home. It's like at this point, he doesn't even have to take me home. I can just take a fucking Lyft home. And if he would just tell me the address. But B doesn't want to tell me the address. B wants to score because B thinks that because I'm in his fucking apartment that I am entitled to give up something. So, ladies and fucking gentlemen, guess what? I was not penetrated that night, but what I experienced was still sexual assault. And so, did I do what I was supposed to do? Yes, I went to the police. Guess what? There is 2 detectives for the entire, where I am from, that particular county. There's 2 detectives to cover sexual crimes for an entire county. Two. And because I had not actually been penetrated, it didn't need a rape kit, so there was no reason for me to be put onto a list. It was just he said, she said, and the best that I could do was attempt to get him fired, to take it up to the management responsible for the establishment that I worked at. But guess what? He was hired, hand-selected by upper management. So this he said, yeah. So what happened to me? I had to keep this secret until this bar closed 8 months later. I worked every weekend with this man, knowing what he had done, knowing the girls that he was bringing in there. Girls, not women. They were girls. They were children. High school students, some as young as 17, for the exact same conclusion that I was subjected to. So, how does coercion work? Through a shift in the power dynamic, through repeated force and basically negotiation. You do not know that your rights have basically been taken away from you until you get to where you are going, which is wherever the fuck the perp decides that you get to go. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't the first time, second or third time that this has happened. Now I know, because I know how brains work and I know how victim blaming works. Hey Boshti, have you ever thought maybe you shouldn't be in situations where you're intoxicated, where you're like subject to get,
because people shouldn't,
like, for this kind of circumstance to take place. Guess what? It was a part of my job, folks. That's the gig, is to get people intoxicated, not to a point where they're like trying to negotiate consent. No, but my job was within an industry that served alcohol, and that we, for our labor, were sometimes rewarded with alcohol. So yes, did I fuck up by agreeing to consume alcohol? Absolutely. On paper, yes, I should have probably been fired for that if we're going off of the handbook standards for there. But does that mean that I have to surrender consent because I am not in a state, and that I have to surrender justice because I was not in a state where I could fully comprehend what was going on? The answer is no. Period. So it can happen. My point for telling that very long, very painful story is that it can happen to anybody, and it can happen anywhere, and the likelihood that justice will be served is highly unlikely. It's statistically almost impossible. So the system has to change, the culture has to change, and I'm sorry, but if your game, the way that you pick up people is by getting them so intoxicated that they can't really regret it later because they don't really know what happened. Guess what? Boom, you are coercing people to have sex with you, and that is fucked up. So, and that's it. That's my mic drop, folks. It's like there's really no other, like, if you don't understand it then you need professional help that we cannot provide. So, and I'm not saying that you're sick. It's just maybe it needs to come from a pay level above us, because again, we are just fashion forward cute millennials on YouTube. So it's like, but that's the deal. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking about the topic that we're talking about, because again, for every one film like Promising Young Woman, there's a ton of High Fidelities, there's a ton of like Love Actuallys, there's a ton of like films and elements of pop culture. It's in music, it's in everything that basically normalizes no the first time being negotiable. If it's no the first time, it's no every time, and there is no amount of haggling on it. It's just no. And it's like, I'm sorry, I have no humor, I have no jokes, I have no nothing to contribute to that point. All I can do is underscore it, because no offense, that's part of the fucking problem. Is that this has to be told with some element of normalization, some kind of jokey jokes, so it's digestible. Guess what? It's not supposed to be fucking happening. That's why it's difficult to digest. Why does this thing that is not normal, that makes me uncomfortable, why is it so commonplace but still so difficult to digest? That is the question that we are leaving you all with. So, if you want to come for us in the comments, come there. And I don't mean that in a gross way. I mean that. Sorry, okay, so you guys got one out of me. You got one, but like, yeah, it's just, so that's the reality, folks. It's just, this should make you super uncomfortable. This is the same thing that happened with, oh god, what is that little fucker's name? The swimmer. Basically, do you know who that was?
Yes. Piece of shit. Piece of fucking. Sorry.
Brock Turner. It's the same thing with Brock Turner. Basically, the girl was passed out behind a dumpster. She's free game. This, folks, it's not just about feminism and wokeness. Like, it's just about recognizing people as people. You know what I'm saying? And because they're in an incapacitated state, it doesn't mean that they become any less human.
Humanity. Literally just humanity.
You just have to give a shit about anything other than yourself to understand that this is wrong. And then the more that we continue to read between the lines to find justification through legislation is fucking, it should keep you up at night. Will it? Probably not. Is this podcast episode enough to do it? No, absolutely not. Our 21 followers, God bless you, but we know that it's not enough. But again, we have to use our platform for good. And again, we will not greenlight instances where this is okay in pop culture. And if it irritates you guys, unsubscribe, because we're going to continue to deconstruct these kind of elements in pop culture as often as they come up. Which, spoiler alert, it's gonna be a fucking lot. So, sorry to drop bombs, but not really, because it's important. This woman deserves justice just like any other woman before her. If you guys need help because that wasn't enough, then go watch Promising Young Woman, where nobody gets hurt, but all of the horror is present and accurate, and it is written from a place of realism where, you know, there is no profound like justice, like gotcha in the end. No, it's real. So it's just, please go watch it. Carey Mulligan is brilliant as Cassie in the film. Again, Emerald Fennell is brilliant as a writer and director, and it has just enough sugar coating with the casting and the sound choices for you to really suspend your disbelief and process the things that are going on. But you have to process it. It's so important that you recognize that this is happening so it doesn't happen and isn't an environment fostered by the dirty Doms and the fucking David Dobriks of the world. And I will stress, I am not blaming David for the fact that this rape happened. Sorry. What I am blaming him is for upholding, and I am holding him accountable for upholding a toxic system where this stuff not only happens, but continues to happen, and there is no accountability. So, end scene. But that's basically the long and the short of it, folks. And we can talk about how alcohol plays a role. We can talk about how state by state certain counties really neglect to hold people. We can talk about it, but we can also hold ourselves and our audience accountable by understanding and deconstructing where this happens, when it happens, and when it's being normalized. And that is the summary of this episode. So, if you like what you hear, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No. This is me doing my, it's actually such a strange culture that sticks with me up until now, but, sorority snaps. So it's, instead of, because, when you're in a small space, for example, when everyone clapping is super loud, so we all just sit there and we snap. But it's something that's, when you hear something, you're just so my reaction to you is just snapping.
Sorry about the background noise, everybody. I'm just trying to get rid of the notifications on my phone, so my phone will stop vibrating. But, okay. So I know that was a fucking lot, and I will get better about navigating melons so we can break up these things with cute cat videos and maybe you laugh you loses, so not that it makes that we're making light of the situation, but we don't want you guys to just be oh my soul every time that, well, we want some of that, but we don't want to further traumatize you through exposure.
Some episodes I feel that are just utter chaos and nonsense as well. So
yeah,
there's gonna those episodes too. I'm quite a nonsensical human, so I'll really benefit with those streams.
And these are things, and you guys know me, I look for the humanity in everything, no matter what franchise it is. I always lead with empathy and the human experience first, because I'm dope like that, so and it's good content, so don't be turned off. There's lots of other things that we're going to do. Who's Closing is essentially our commentary. Oh my goodness, my cat.
Oh my God, I heard that.
He's gonna keep doing it. So essentially, Who's Closing is just a podcast that is a safe space for us to discuss not necessarily identity politics, but the different societal conflicts that occur in pop culture, to where we do have to question whether we're propagandizing certain malpractice of society, and where we're essentially using pop culture to romanticize or turn a blind eye to certain things where we otherwise would hold people very much accountable in the real world. So we know that these questions exist in the back of your brains, because if they can wrinkle the smoothness of our fucking chicken liver brains, then we already know that you guys have beat us to the punch with trying to figure out how this relates to the real world. So a lot of our episodes are going to explore not nearly as serious topics, but given that it's kind of our, it's our first episode since our hiatus, and given what this month really kind of means, we just really wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and give you guys a full palette of what to expect. Sometimes it's gonna skin your knees, it's gonna hurt a little bit, and then other times it's gonna make you laugh till you pee, and that is also fine, and we look forward to providing you that content as well. In fact, Uh.
Mm.
This month we are going to continue with the podcast format because we like it. Look at all this, like, look at this cool ass background. Look how cute. Like, I set up a new, like, backdrop. Like, there's some cute shit back there, and I'm gonna record in my little, like, under the bed studio. So this month we
I can
finally. Oh no, where'd you go? You froze. Oh, and you froze with, like, the best face. Oh my god, I wish. Oh, are you still there? Hang on, guys. I'm gonna hide her and then I'm gonna bring her back. There you. Oh, you might be back. I don't know. I can hear you. We're just gonna wait for Lauren. There she is. Okay. Perfect.
Like a milk carton. So much strawberry.
Oh no, you're breaking up a little bit. Hang on. Guys, we're almost to the end, I promise. Oh no. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and wrap this up while I wait on her to come back. So, let me do my cute little... Sorry guys, I did all the visual design for this, so, like, don't mind me flexing, like, my creative muscle. But essentially, so just to give you a heads up of what to expect for next episode, we will... oh, sorry. Ooh, sorry. So crunchy. My lamp broke, so, there's, like, a bunch of, like, sand and, like, weird shit, like, all over my desk. So I sincerely apologize for that. Okay, so we are essentially going to be doing a couch co-op watch party for Rise of Skywalker on Tuner. You guys have done that with me over the Dinner Nerds channel, so you basically know how I set those up, and we'll be promoting that on social media, so just be sure to follow us at Fueled by Pop for updates on that. It could be this weekend, it could be next, depends on availability because it is Easter, so you know how that goes. We have been waiting all of 2020 for Yasuke to premiere. Netflix has finally dropped the trailer and it premieres April 25th. So, at the end of the month, hopefully, at the end of the month, we will be able to do a season reaction with our friends over at Leftover Ramen. They are a anime podcast that also does political and progressive commentary, and we are so excited to be collaborating with them on doing a reaction. Oh, guess who I have? She's
I
back.
don't know what happened.
So
I was,
yes,
like,
that is
yelling
coming
at
up,
you.
and we are also going to be talking about one more. Sorry guys, show notes, you know how it is. We will be talking about basically tech monopolies and how major corporations exploit labor. We're going to kind of talk about Amazon employees attempting to unionize in Bessemer, Alabama. I will be talking about my experience working for Facebook and essentially the moderating conditions. And we're just going to talk about how exploitation works in, like, white collar and management level spaces. So tune in next week. We're going to get extra corporate woke for that ass, and yeah, we're just going to talk about that, and we might even have a surprise guest for that episode that has a ton of insight that also used to work with me. So again, stay tuned. So if you like what you see, feel free to like and subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know every time that we go live with one of these podcast episodes. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've been ranting for almost 2 hours about how the world sucks. We're going to do it again every week. And until then, we will see you in the future, gang. Later.